What is up, everybody? Jordan here with the Deck Box, coming back to you with a new deck profile. And we're actually looking at something from Forbidden Light, believe it or not. But real quick, I have to say, cool intro, right? I'm super excited. We finally got the new intro up. So that's out there for you guys. If you've been paying attention to Twitter or Facebook, it's been out there for a few days. I put it out there for everyone to see early on. But this video was the actual debut of getting it out on the internet, so I'm very excited for that. I'm very glad with how it turned out. So at this point you've seen it, so I'm not going to ask you to go check it out, but what I will ask you to do, as I mentioned, Facebook, Twitter, you guys can follow me through those things. You can keep up to date with new things happening with the channel. You can be involved with some conversations, you know, what we're going to record and things like that. Facebook, it's facebook.com/thedeckboxtcg, you saw in the intro, and of course Twitter is at J3T8LAK. So be sure to go on there, follow me, follow the channel page, and you'll be able to stay up to date with everything. But without further ado, we're going to get into this deck profile. As I mentioned, it's Forbidden Light. That doesn't come out till May, but what's very important about that is you do have a few things coming up after that where this will be applicable, and I think they're very big things. So of course you do have Madison Regionals first week of June, which for the content providers out there, Dead Draw Gaming of course is doing the streaming, and they're having this really cool thing where content creators can put out a commercial, which of course I will be involved with. People can sponsor different things. Go check it out. They posted something on their Facebook, or I'm sorry, on their YouTube page, of course, Dead Draw Gaming. Go there, check it out. It gives you some info, and you can get in contact with them if you have any questions. So Madison's going on. Then we have Internationals, and then we have Worlds, which of course, I believe for Worlds, we're going to have another set out, so that'll change even more. But this kind of gives you guys just a little bit of a taste of what will be coming up in the future, some cards we're going to have to mess with, and some ideas I think that we could start getting in our minds that we can maybe morph over time into something great. So, as usual, timestamps will be available in the description if you want to hop ahead to certain points. That is fine. But now we're going to hop into this list. It is Ultra Necrozma Malamar. This list, for those of you who have been playing for a while, will look like an Eels deck. Of course, the Eels that allow you to accelerate energy from the discard pile, that's what we're going to be looking at, but in a different form. I was not around during that era. I've heard stories. I've seen little bits and pieces of how great it can be. So I was really excited to profile this for you guys. But the way we're starting off is with the new Ultra Necrozma GX, which I think is just a sick looking Pokemon. One of my favorites coming out of the set. I normally don't go for the real, I guess, cool looking ones. You know, I don't always go for the conventionally cool looking ones, but this one just, he's really cool. So I want to read you real quick what he does. Ultra Necrozma GX is a dragon Pokemon, 190 HP, excuse me, basic, has a couple attacks. First attack, Photon Geyser for 20 plus damage. Discard all basic psychic energy attached to this Pokemon. This attack does 80 more damage for each energy discarded this way. So let's do some math here. Okay, it requires a psychic and a metal to attack to begin with. Excuse me. So we're looking at a base 100 damage basically. If you have 2 psychic energy and a metal attached, you're looking at 180. That pretty much takes care of all of our big basics. From there, Choice Band, you're at 210. What does that take care of? All of our stage 1s. It covers it, takes care of it. We don't have to worry about those just from 3 energy. Now, you do have to discard the psychic energy, and it's all of the psychic energy. So, you know, if you just happen to be built up and you have to dump them all, you have to dump them all. But we have ways to get it back, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But I just wanted you to catch on to the numbers there. With 2 energy, you're swinging for 180, potentially 210 with a Choice Band, which is the key here. And obviously, if you want to go bigger than that, take down the big Pokemon, you can. Only 4 energy. You're essentially building up the same that you would have to build up these big metal Pokemon like Duskmane, Necrozma, to do those big one-shots on those massive Pokemon. But typically you're swinging for 210. That's good enough to take down your Zoroarks, your Glissopods, Lycanrocs, things like that. Next, we're going to look at the GX attack, Light of Destruction GX. This attack can only be used if you and your opponent together have 6 or less remaining prize cards. Put 6 damage counters on all of your opponent's Pokemon in play. Now, what could be really cool about this is if you need to take 1 or 2 prizes and it's coming down to the last part of the game and your opponent's trying to set something up, one of two things is going to happen. Either they're going to start setting up their basics. Sorry, I had a little itch. They're going to start setting up their basics, little 60 HP whatevers. This is a way to take multiple knockouts, or just the one, and it's kind of a sniping. It does it to all of them. You could also finish off Pokemon that have had damage done to them. Most likely that's not going to be the case because you're going to be one-shotting things with the first attack. That's kind of your goal. But it's really key there whenever your opponent starts to try to set things up, and you can just spread 60 damage. So they'll either not set them up because they're afraid they're going to get knocked out, or they'll set them up and just give the knockouts anyway. So just a few things to consider there. Really, really awesome card. You're going to focus on that first attack though. That's the core, that's the target of the deck, is to just take massive knockouts with the first attack. Excuse me. Next, we're going to look at the support Pokemon, and it's actually a Malamar line. First of all, looking at Inkay, we do run 4. 60 HP basic psychic Pokemon. Has 1 attack, Hypnosis for a psychic energy, put your opponent's active to sleep. Pretty straightforward, but not a bad attack in a tight spot. You can lock down your opponent. If they can't get out of it, then it could buy you a couple turns. So not a terrible starter. Next, looking at Malamar, again we run 4. It's a 4/4 line. I'm going heavy on this. I want to see how this will work out for us. Like I said, this is just kind of a concept that we can build upon and go from here. So Malamar, stage 1, 90 HP, psychic Pokemon. 2 things. We're going to look at the attack first, which is very vanilla. It sucks, it's not good. But for 2 psychic and a colorless, you're doing 60 damage. It's just, you don't even one-shot a Buzzwole, even with a choice band. So, not great, but it's something. What we really want to look at, though, is the ability Psycho Recharge. Once during your turn, you may attach a psychic energy from your discard pile to one of your benched Pokemon. So this is going to be how you kind of build up these attacks and get things rolling. You're going to prep these guys for these big knockouts. Your Ultra Necrozma GXs. After you use the active, you discard all that energy. You use Malamar to shoot it back onto your other Pokemon and keep rolling. Now, a couple things. I will say this list right now does not run Floatstone. I'm doing it a little bit differently. I'm trying some things out. So you could do all the energy attachments on the bench, do it that way, and then use your active, attach an energy there, retreat it, and go on, because it takes 2 retreat costs, of course. Or you could Guzma or whatever. Really, the way you want to kind of have it set up is build up multiples at once, so that you just do one after another, and it's not a big deal. So either way, great ability on a support Pokemon to be able to just cycle through that energy, never really having to worry about not being set up, because you're gonna get things set up. So next from there, we do have other support Pokemon. We're looking at 3 Tapu Lele GX. We want to have a lot of consistency, and like I said, if we're just attaching to the bench, we want to be able to make sure that we can get our Guzmas and things like that. So we will play 3 of these to get set up, to use the Guzmas to draw through our deck. Whatever we need to do, Lele's there to make it happen. So great inclusion. Another way that we are going to make the energy acceleration on the bench work is we actually play 2 Mews from Fates Collide, which of course have free retreat. And if you know anything about Mew, it has the ability to use the attacks of any of your basic Pokemon in play. So if you have Ultra Necrozma GX on the bench, you've probably built up Mew, you have it in the active, you've used its attack. Next turn, if by some miracle Mew does not get knocked out, you can retreat Mew to an Ultra Necrozma GX after it's been built up, and you're ready to go again. And you just keep cycling through. So that is why we play 2 of them. The main reason we play them, though, is not for the free retreat. The reason we play them is for the psychic weakness. Obviously, we're able to use the attacks of our other basic Pokemon in play, and our other basic Pokemon in play would be an Ultra Necrozma, which has Dragon typing, and nothing's weak to Dragon. We want to have that Psychic weakness, so if there's a time where we can't necessarily build things up perfectly, Mew can come out and take a big knockout. And Mew can do it for just 2 energy. For a Metal and a Psychic, you're swinging for 100, which against a Buzzwole is a one-shot with the weakness. So that's really why we play Mew. It's a guarantee quicker setup than Ultra Necrozma, which sometimes needs 3 or 4 energy to take the massive knockouts. Then I did choose to play 1 Lunala Prism Star. So this reads, for each of your opponent's Pokemon in play, attach a Psychic Energy card from your discard pile to your Pokemon in any way you like. So this would be a great way to set up once you've kind of exhausted some resources a little later in the game. You slap down Lunala, attach an energy, and you kind of build up multiple Pokemon at one time. I think that's really great. So the main reason, really though, I know you're probably thinking, we have Malamar, we can attach from the discard pile, not a huge deal. The reason I'm playing Lunala is because there are those chances where you don't have Malamar. Whether it's early game, late game, it's gonna happen at some point. You're not gonna have Malamar. How many games have you played with Vikabulu or the new Duskmane with Magnezone? How many of those games have you played and you don't have either one of them? You're just kind of stuck. You'll have them at some point, but early on or late game, you may need something else to boost it. Lunala Prism Star allows us that opportunity to be able to have a little bit more of an advantage whenever we get caught off guard. So that is why we do play the 1 Lunala Prism Star. Figured it'd be worth a shot in this deck to give it a try. From there, we're going to look at our supporters. These are all of our draw supporters. I did go with 2 Sycamores. Typically, I like to go for 1 or less, to be honest with you, with Cynthia out. I know that's not everyone's cup of tea, but for me, that's just, it works. But this one I chose to include 2 Sycamore because we're okay with dumping things. Mainly, we're okay with dumping energy. And the deck does run quite a bit of energy, so if I dump it, it's not a huge deal. In fact, we kind of prefer to dump it at certain points in the game. If we have Malamar up, if we have Lunala Prism Star, whatever the case is, that's why we have Sycamore there. Then, of course, we do have N for disruption purposes. Early game, maybe you give up some mulligans or something, you can shrink their hand back down to 6. Whatever. If you have that and you don't want, or if you have that and a Sycamore and you don't want to discard anything, N's obviously the better option, but mainly now N acts as disruption later in the game for your opponent. Then from there we do run 3 Cynthia, which of course is like the new draw supporter, new, old, whatever, Professor Oak's new theory. But it has become a great card and staple in pretty much every deck. So we did include 3 of those. So we have 8 total draw supporters plus the drawing from the discard pile with Malamar. So we're doing pretty good as far as draw support. From there, we look at our other supporters, which of course we have Guzma. We want to take the knockouts that we want to take. And the core of this deck, which is Ultra Necrozma GX, we're taking big knockouts. That's the goal. So if we can make that happen, Guzma is the way to make it happen. Because people are going to try to protect things they're building up, things they don't want to be knocked out, and it's our goal to go in there and just wipe them out, okay? Especially if we're in a matchup against something that's weak to Psychic, we can use Mew, bring Mew up and take a big knockout. That's really kind of the best strategy in those matchups because you're giving up 1 prize versus 2. So I really like that whole setup with the 2 cards. Then from there we do have 3 Bridget. Really what we need to do is just get our bench loaded up. In a deck that uses some sort of support Pokemon, you want to make sure you get down at least 2 of those basics so that you can kind of guarantee a turn 2 of that Pokemon. So in this case, you're probably going to want to have down a couple Inkays and a couple Ultra Necrozma GXs, so you're going to use Bridget to set that up, plus your starting Pokemon. That way, turn 2, you should be able to draw into a Malamar, start setting things up appropriately, and just start steamrolling your opponent. Now we're going to look at the items. So we do actually have a new item, and I'm very excited about this one. If you've been paying attention so far, you'll notice every single one of our Pokemon in this deck are either Psychic or Dragon. I did that intentionally. I could have included a Rengaroo at some point, but I intentionally chose to just stick with Psychic and Dragon. I wanted to try something out. Plus, I don't think it really needs a ton of Oranguru or other draw support. I think it does pretty well on its own, considering we can draw from the discard, and we have ways to cycle through pretty quickly. But the main reason for doing Psychic or Dragon is this first item, Mystery Treasure. It reads, you have to discard one card from your hand to play this card. Search your deck for one Psychic or Dragon Pokemon, reveal it, and put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck. So, what that means is, we have Ultra Ball for one card. It is a cheaper Ultra Ball. We only run Psychic and Dragon Pokemon, so why wouldn't we? Why wouldn't we play this? It's perfect. So, now, I know we want to get energy in our discard pile. I get that. But we're not always going to have 2 energy in our hand, or rather 3, because we want to attach one as our attachment for turn, and then if we had Ultra Ball, we'd want to discard both of them. That's not always the case. That's 3 cards out of your hand plus your Ultra Ball. That's 4 of your cards in your hand. Sometimes you don't have 4 cards. Sometimes you just don't have that much energy because you've attached it or it's in your discard. So Mystery Treasure is really, really good, I think, in this deck to make that happen. There's going to be times where you get kind of caught. All you have in your hand is a Mystery Treasure, or in most cases would be an Ultra Ball. So in most cases you have to wait 2 turns before you can use it to get a Lele or whatever. All we have to do is hold on to that one Mystery Treasure, next turn draw a card, use Mystery Treasure, get Lele, Sycamore, draw a new hand. Okay, so that is why we're playing that. I think it's going to be a really solid inclusion. I think it's going to show really well in testing. And I'm excited to see how it does. I really am. I think it's an awesome card. Originally when I saw it, I thought it was kind of dumb that it only allowed for those 2 types. But I get it. I mean, you want to be kind of specific. That'd be too good if it was for any type. But this is a really, really good archetype with Ultra Necrozma GX and Malamar. And to pair it with Mystery Treasure is just going to make it that much better. So anyway, I'm off my soapbox about Mystery Treasure. I think it's a really good card. Next card, we run 3 Choice Band. So I wanted to originally run 4 of these, but it didn't make a ton of sense because this is one of those decks where we get to control our damage output based on the amount of energy we attach. So we're not always going to need a Choice Band. If we can, if we have 2 or 3 Malamar down and we're able to attach and set things up appropriately, it's not going to be a huge deal for us to be able to hit the numbers we need to hit with the energy we have. Choice Band is really just there if we happen to get 2 Psychic energy attached to 1 and a Metal energy, of course, for the requirements. We're swinging for 180, but we need 210. That's what the Choice Bands are there for. We run just a few of them for that. Maybe if we need to attach it to a Mew, one of our Fate's Mews, then we do that. But that's why I run 3 instead of 4. It just made sense. Then from there, a speedier way to set things up. I wanted to pair both of them together. I know a lot of people say you don't need Elixir and Malamar. You don't need them, but I'm going to say throw them both in there because early game you're not going to have Malamar turn 1. I want to get as many Pokemon set up as fast as I can. If that means I do it turn 1 and turn 2, then that's great. If I get multiple Ultra Necrozmas set up, I'm set. I don't even have to worry about setting up because I have multiples ready to go. Take my 3 knockouts, game over. So that's why I run the Max Elixirs as well as the Malamar, just to speed things through. We're starting, I know we have a lot of evolving decks, but despite that, we're still getting back into a little bit speedier things, especially with basic decks. I feel like the evolving decks can keep up with the speedy basic decks, but if you're running a basic deck and it's not very speedy, for some reason you just fall apart. Okay, in my testing, things like Buzzwall, if I run a slower version, I'm just getting wrecked every time. But if I run the speedy version, it just blows through. I mean, it makes sense. It's common sense. So I decided to make this as speedy as possible by including the 4 Max Elixirs. Then from there, we're looking at some support items. Excuse me. First thing, we do run 3 Field Blower. Garb is getting a little bit bigger. We want to keep Malamar's abilities online as well as our Lele's. We do run many of them. We need them for early and late game. So 3 Field Blower seems appropriate to me. I'd love to run 4. But the space just wasn't there, and I think for now that this will be appropriate with our needs. Then from there, we do run 1 Super Rod, which I know seems kind of odd because we also run a Stretcher. They're serving 2 different purposes. Yes, we run Lunala Prism Star, but it gets knocked out and it goes away. It goes to Lost Zone forever. Yes, we run Malamar, but it's not always there. What if our abilities are locked? What if all of our Malamars are knocked out and we just have no energy? We're going to have the Super Rod to get things back into our deck when we need them. I'm trying that out early just to see how it works. If it doesn't work, if it's wasteful, I'll change it later. But for now, I feel like that would be appropriate to include in there. And then, of course, Rescue Stretcher to get back, any of our Pokemon. Okay. That seems to be the best recovery in this deck. It's not a puzzles deck, so Rescue Stretcher works very well. Paired with Super Rod, if I need to use them both for Pokemon, I use them both for Pokemon. It's not a big deal. Ooh, battery's going out, guys. So then moving on from there, we do have our energy here. Obviously, this is a really, really heavy deck as far as it comes to energy. So I've chosen to run 9 Psychic to start things off and 4 Metal. Obviously, we only need the 1 Metal to be able to get our attack going. And then from there, we just attach our Psychic Energy and attach our Psychic Energy. So, excuse me, we run the 4 to make sure we hit it as early as possible. We don't want to overkill on it. And there are times we're going to want to set up multiple Pokemon. That just makes sense. And then we want to be able to cycle through our Psychic Energy as much as possible. I mean, there's really not much more explaining that needs to go into it than that. We're going to use Malamar to cycle the energy back, and of course we're going to use that energy to wipe out our opponents. So that's the energy count. That brings us to our final 60 cards, which of course is up on the screen, and I do apologize, the logo's blocking the energy there. Let me just move right there in the center of the circle. So here is the list for you guys. If you think that this is a good idea, take the list, go for it, make some proxies, test this out. The Limitless TCG right now does have the scans of Forbidden Light on their website, so you can go and get your Necrozmas, your Malamar lines, things like that, and start trying this deck out. If you do try it out, let me know what it does for you. Let me know if it plays well, and then of course let me know if you make any changes to it. I'd like to know if there's something that worked better for you. I'm going to be trying a couple different variations of this. This is just kind of the core I wanted to start with. From here I'll probably do things like change up some float stones or something like that, maybe add something like that in, maybe look for some more tech attackers. But I think right now I really like this just simple core. You have a main attacker, you have the supporter or the supporting Pokemon, and you just go from there. So I'm really happy with this list. Like I said, I'm going to try it out and I'm going to let you guys know how it goes. But as usual, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Hope you've enjoyed the video. If you did, please be sure to leave a like for me, leave a comment for me, let me know what you think of the deck. Let me know what deck you want me to profile next, and maybe we'll make it happen for you. And as usual, thank you so much for joining me here at the Deck Box, where I want to know what's in your box. Have a great day, guys.